Lord, let me remember these words. This is my theme song. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. I said, in this parade, wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. You make this parade a mere charade if you're marching just for fun. Our troops must feel your thanks for real before the marching is done. They know side by side you can match their stride to the drum beat and the brass, but they're not impressed with you unless you can match their stride in class. This may not sound too diplomatic, but I cannot be more emphatic when I tell you it's problematic when you do less than your best, especially when it's because you put your brilliance on pause for the mere peer applause it draws from a so-called friend doing less. Quit playing. I'm saying, we know that you are great, and you know it, so show it. Don't make our heroes wait. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. Now, for those of you who already do the things that make us proud, your nation in appreciation says thanks to you out loud. Your schoolmates to imitate the way you tap your potential. Let me try to convince them why their effort is essential. Our men and women in uniform before, during, and after Desert Storm always perform above the norm everywhere and anywhere on the planet. Your peers should follow our heroes' lead, but they cannot follow if they cannot read. Allow me, please, to plant this seed. Don't take freedom for granted. I'm serious, I'm furious to see U.S. schools behind. No excuses. All we got to do is just make up our minds. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. We believe in you, warriors, protect you too. Do what you must to rise. So please do your part and please start before another warrior dies. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. They sacrifice for you. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. Please.
Good afternoon and welcome to Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org, the academic patriotism radio program that is dedicated to veterans and serious secondary scholars. I am your announcer, DeQuay Wilson. Now here is our host, civilian urban educator host, Carl Boyd.
Thank you so very much, DeQuay Wilson. Thank you for joining us on Wave Your Grades, the program that is dedicated to veterans, and we are asking American students to strive for excellence in honor of our troops. And we have one of those whom we honor today, whom we are very happy to have with us on Wave Your Grades this afternoon. His name is Cornell Hutton, but I would like to find out name, rank, serial number, and more about your career in as much as you are indeed a distinguished veteran. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Again, Carl, my name is Cornell Hutton. I'm originally from New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
I'm happy to be here in Missouri now. I've been here for about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
I went into the military right after high school. It was one of the things where you could join the military when you were still in high school and then actually go in after you completed high school. So I'd already signed up in high school.
Wow.
And once I got enlisted, wound up going directly to Vietnam, which was really one of the most horrific but manly experiences of my life.
Let me just say very quickly a profound thank you to Cornell Hutton. And let me tell you why. When I see Vietnam vet and you tell me that you signed up uh, at high school age, just a little beyond high school age, Cornell Hutton, you did that at a time when there were many avoiding the draft, as it were. How does it happen that you were somehow encouraged to or felt an obligation to join?
Uh, one of the main things for me was actually financial realizations
Sure.
of I wasn't going to be able to go to college, and I knew I was going to have to be able to provide. So I said to myself, and I lived close to Fort Dix and McGuire Air Force Base, so I'd had a lot of interactions with military people throughout my childhood and youth coming up. So, and it was always a positive experience.
Okay.
And so many of the men that lived in my area were retirees. And they used to always say, hey, go in and get your 20 years in
Wow.
and retire and, you know, and at least have a benefit and stuff like that. So those were the things that really encouraged me to go in. Uh, and one thing, Carl, I'd like to take an opportunity to just say to the students out there who aren't doing their best and who aren't trying, man, make the turnaround today.
Thank you.
You know, you can't wait for tomorrow. You can't expect someone else to do it for you. In your heart, man, like I said, if you're listening to this show and if you're a youth who's struggling academically or in any area, man, we need you to reach out because there are organizations, there are people, there are teachers, but there are things in place that will help you. And I think, man, I'm just so happy to be on this show today, really so that I can give my words of encouragement to those of you who are falling by the wayside, because that's something that certainly could have happened in my life.
Let me tell Cornell Hutton something that DeQuay Wilson, who is our announcer and producer and engineer, can attest to. That this is the first time that I have suggested this and made this request. And again, we've been doing this for a pretty good while.
Yes, sir, we have.
This will be the first time that you have heard me say to a guest that I intend to, with your permission, use as a promotion for Waive Your Grades the appeal you just made to students. And we've done a lot of shows, but we absolutely must, at this point in this program's tenure, if you allow it, and I suspect that inasmuch as you have just said it, that is allowing it, to use this as a promotion for this program, because he has just indeed captured what this is all about.
Yes, sir.
To honor veterans and to appeal to students. DeQuay Wilson, he did it better than we could, and we want to thank you so very much for that.
Well, again, it comes from the heart, Carl.
Praise
because,
God. Yes.
I'm 74 years old now,
Yes, sir.
and I've been working in the streets, and I mean in the streets, just about all of my life, asking young people to turn their lives around. I've been blessed to be a filmmaker or a documentary maker.
Yes, sir.
In 2011, I went to St. Louis and did a project called Rise Up St. Louis, trying to inform people that Ferguson was about to happen or the explosion was about to happen. And then after I moved here to Kansas City, I did a project called Rise Up Kansas City, trying to offer some hope to people here in Kansas City and some remedies and things like that. But the thing is, we have to take the ball into our own hands and we have to start functioning as a community.
This is so very important, and ordinarily I wait a little while in the interview to ask for this, but I'm going to ask for it more than once. Cornell Hutton is doing something and has been doing something that is so important that we want to make sure that his contact information is available to all who join this program for however many times that it plays. Let us start out with contact information. It can be specifically about Rise Up KC or Cornell Hutton or whatever is appropriate.
Yes, the easiest, well, a couple of ways really, is to just go to riseupkc.com, and that will bring you the Rise Up Kansas City documentary. Or you can go to YouTube and go to Hutton Productions, and you'll see a black fist, and that's my logo. But again, I encourage anyone who's listening to reach out and look at some of the programming that's on there. But I also ask that you listen to two songs particularly that are there. One is called Generation Gap,
Yes, sir.
and really it talks about the differences in our generations today and appeases or appeals for us to try to work together. And the other song is called Penitentiary or Cemetery. But it is one of the most heartbreaking songs I think you will ever listen to, because it's a mother appealing to her son and asking them, where do you want me to visit you? The penitentiary or the cemetery? And really, to many of you young people out there listening today, this is really the thing that your mother is really concerned about. Where is she going to visit you? And if you don't get an education, the probability is she is going to either visit you in the penitentiary or the cemetery. And that's the tough part, Carl.
Now, who wrote that?
I actually wrote both songs.
Okay, thank you.
But there's a gentleman, Eugene Smiley, who passed away last year.
Yes.
I don't know if you know Eugene.
Yes.
Right, he passed away last year.
Okay.
But he did all of the music for it.
Yes, sir.
And then we had two entertainers who did the singing, the vocals for each one of these songs.
As usual, DeQuay, jump in if you have a question and or a comment. I heard Cornell Hutton say something that I want to follow up on, because what I know about New Jersey is Inglewood. I've worked in a couple of schools in Inglewood, New Jersey. You said that you wanted to warn people of a Ferguson possibly happening, so that I am hearing that you are saying that what you were projecting was before.
Correct.
Now, what was it about the climate that caused you to alert those?
Well,
over there?
one of the things is the people that I interviewed on the streets knew what was coming,
My Lord.
because many of them saw the disrespect of the youth. And they were anticipating that anything that started a fire, that it would explode. And that was really the documentary, because even back then in 2011, they talked about putting up more cameras so that the people wouldn't have to go in and snitch. You know, they said if you had the camera up, the camera would see it. You wouldn't need us. So there were a lot of positive things that the people in the community were coming up with. One of the other things, Carl, I'd like to say is we have a tips hotline. And I question, or I won't say I question, but to me, the tips hotline is not as effective as it could be. And I would like to appeal to someone in our community to be able to come up with a "May I help you" hotline for the youth, because to me, that's really what we need in our schools and in our churches, and in any way that a young person needs to reach out to us. They need some type platform so that "May I help you." If they need something, they can come to us in the community
Yes.
before they go and do something that ruins the rest of their lives. That we should be able to come up with something or some remedy for them that helps them before they go down the wrong path.
I am very happy to hear you say that. And one of the young men about whom I speak often is a gentleman whose name is Anthony Butler. And Anthony Butler has a program, VIP, Violence I Prevent. And the reason that I so often talk about Anthony Butler is because he talks about prevention, so that we are not always waiting until something happens before now. We want to see what we can do about what did happen, but how can we prevent?
Be more proactive.
So that here today we have Cornell Hutton, our very special guest, saying a "May I help you" line is a lot better than after the fact.
Correct.
Now, as it pertains to that, how have you pursued it? How will you? And what has been the response to the suggestion?
When I first got here 10 years ago is when I was really trying to promote the "May I Help You" program or "May I Help You" program. And along with that, I was passing out literature, because one of the things I also feel that we need to utilize our barbershops more
Interesting.
and our beauticians more.
Interesting.
And one of the suggestions that I had made is that we put cameras in our barbershops and our beauty shops that actually profiled wanted people in our community. Because people laughed at first, but then they started to understand the concept. If you're constantly flashing in our barbershops and our beauty shops, our local people that we're looking for, you have more of an opportunity, I think, to be able to find that suspect than what you would if you just wait for the way the normal process goes. So that was one of the things that on this little letter that I'd established. But one of the other things that, along with that, that I was asking for is that we really try to find more ways to hire youth coordinators and people like that to put into our school systems. One of the things, we have this and we have that, but if we had and it doesn't have to be a teacher, but if we had more assistants or paras in our system, I just think it would be something that would help us a lot more. So again, I haven't really pushed it that hard.
Yes.
But when I talk to people, it's something that I mention.
Now, you definitely were talking to people in the St. Louis community.
Correct.
That was 2011.
Yes.
You came to Kansas City, and Rise Up Kansas City was established again when?
About 10 years ago.
Now, what has been the response or the several responses you have experienced?
I've gotten very positive reviews from people that have sat down and watched it. It was really a blessing to be able to get local flavor from Harry and the Bloodstones and
Yes.
some people that had some footage that I was able to insert into it. Again, when it's probably reached 3,000-4,000 people, somewhere around in there.
Okay.
Certainly wish it had a larger viewership, but again, when people watch it, they understand the message, and they see what's needed. But again, in our community, we as we all know, we need more funding. There was a young lady that I was just speaking to.
Yes.
That was just here. She's almost finished college now, it was so inspiring just to listen to her for just a few minutes
Absolutely.
of the aspirations that she has. So, for the bad seeds that we have, we are blessed as a race because we have a lot of young people that are pushing the excellence bar and who are really trying. And to those of you that are doing that, I tip my hat to you and I thank you.
Once again, Cornell Hutton, our very special guest this afternoon, talking about things contemporary, but having an experience that goes back to the Vietnam War. That is very, very salient as it relates to the relevance you bring because of what you have experienced and what you are attempting to do now. So, again, contact information, and I have a follow-up question to that.
Yes, again, like I said, YouTube, Hutton Productions, you'll see a Black Fist, or you can go to riseupkc.com. One of the other things I kind of forgot to mention is that during the epidemic COVID, all of the kids had to start home learning. And one of the things I had mentioned in this little sheet that I was passing out is that all of our kids start to get on some type of a homeschooling type class so that we're doing more than just our academic work at school. And we have a way that parents and the kids can do more. Because, again, we know that a lot of kids aren't getting their homework done and are winding up failing. But I just think that some of these other little courses and things that are online,
Yes.
that there's a lot to it.
Now, in as much as you have expertise in media and various media, as well as musical background, all of those kinds of things, if I call upon you for your services, what kind of presentations would you make, and to what kind of audiences?
I tell you, I really appeal with talking to the youth.
Okay.
Because they are the future.
Yes, sir.
And I think one of the main things that I've found more than anything else is that they understand me, because when I don't mix words. Like I said, I'm on a radio show today, so I know that I have to be, but in the street, I get right down to it.
Yes, sir.
Carl, let me be honest with you. When I went to St. Louis, I didn't know anybody. And I went to the roughest parts of St. Louis and stayed with the Bloods and the Crips. And I used to always carry 5 guns at one time.
Is that right?
And dudes would say, "Man, why do you carry so many guns?" And I said, "Let me explain something to you, man. I'm not going to reload." Now, that's a terrible thing to say and a terrible way to think.
Yes, sir.
But that was from my military training.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that when I was going into the inner city, I was going into combat. So I felt that I had to be overly prepared. And that's a very, very, very sad situation. That when you're afraid in your own community and afraid to mingle amongst your own.
Yes, sir.
But by the same token, because of the training, you see what I'm saying? It had me well prepared. So I was able to go into St. Louis and live with the Bloods and the Crips.
Sure.
To mingle with them and feel free. Because, again, we developed a respect for one another. They respected my military training, my military thought process. They understood it. I understood them. And we worked together and got my filming done.
Now, as your relationships with young people has evolved, the message that you carry is a message of peace.
And I think that's really the main thing. After after you've been through the battles, after you've had to see your friends die, and even men that weren't your friends, it it puts a hole in you or a hole in your heart that you're never able to come back from. And peace, like I said, that's really the thing that my projects, when I make them, even though it shows the worst in the community, it's really made to show that our community can improve and will survive. You know, because in Rise Up Kansas City, there was a lady police officer, I forget what her name was, but at the end of the project, that's one of the main things she said: never give up. And that's what she's telling our community.
Mm-hmm.
Never give up. And that's something we can never do on our youth. We can never give up on our youth. So even though you guys that are out there that might not be doing as good as you can, people still love you. And like I said, man, if you raise your hand, there's someone out there that will help you.
Let us remind those who are with us that this is Wave Your Grades, KUAW.org. Our program, Wave Your Grades, dedicated to veterans and featuring young people who are serious students. We are blessed this afternoon to have as a very special guest Cornell Hutton, Vietnam veteran, producer of media properties that are encouraging peace. And DeQuay, before I ask you about your comment and or question, I must ask this of Cornell Hutton: as relationships again have evolved and as you work with young people now, one, have you ever had occasion to need a weapon in the relationships, and do you continue to make that part of your persona even at this point?
Not at this point.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Really, as we age, we change, we turn away, and I'm blessed to have a family, man, who really stuck by me because I've had tough times, and so they've really been the foundation of my life.
Yes, sir.
And so I've turned away from the violent part of the way I used to be and don't carry weapons anymore. But I still have that approach that, hey, listen, man, you can't treat me like, you can't treat Mr. Hutton the way you treat other people. It's not acceptable.
And the interesting thing is when you have that respect, you find the better side
Yes.
in the young people with whom you work. My blessing on the south side of Chicago, 1960s and 1970s, Blackstone Rangers, Egyptian Cobras, Vice Lords, High Supreme Cobras, Gangster Disciples, East Side Disciples, Del Vikings. My blessing was that the guys in Stateway Gardens were my softball teams. My blessing was that I never had an encounter where I had to carry a weapon. And I can honestly say that the occasions where I've had to get a weapon from somebody or keep someone from having to use it, it was not because I was tough, but because of their respect.
Yes.
And we were able to communicate with each other. Now, I have not had the same background as you, which is a very important background, because one thing about young people is we used to use the vernacular back in the day. They can spot a phony in a minute, and they know that you are legitimate. They know that you are credible. So you have engendered a respect from them.
Yes.
And how many times DeQuay Wilson Children learn more by example than they do by instruction. By your example, by your walk, they will want to become something better. Have you seen evidence of that in some of the young people with whom you've worked?
I tell you, where we lived at before was a small town in Kansas, and we were very fortunate because we had a north end of town which was the poorest section, and the community asked me to become a youth coach. So
Yes.
to take over
There you go.
all of the young North End kids. So I was fortunate for when my kids were coming up to have all black teams of football, basketball, and baseball. And it was a tremendous opportunity for me and also for them. One of the young men, his name is Terrence Newman. He wound up being a number one draft choice of the Dallas Cowboys.
Watch out.
Out of that group. And this was a small town of less than 50,000 people
Yes, sir.
that he came from.
Okay.
So it's really been a joy for me in life to have been a coach for so many teams. And when I look back now, there have been some boys that fell by the wayside who did wind up in prison. But most of the young men that I had have families now and who are successful. And that has really been quite a blessing as far as I'm concerned.
Now, let me go to Louis George Walker. This is the gentleman who is the founder of KUAW.org. But in addition to what he does with the radio station, he's the president of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, and he has young people with whom he works who have become experts, not only as social media are visited upon us, but also technology, robotics competitions, all of those kinds of things. So I'm going to ask of him, as he always does, to let those who have joined us know how they can get this program later, how they can get KUAW, the kind of things that KUAW.org does. And then, Brother Luther, he was talking about Rise Up KC and some of the media properties he has. But he also made a statement earlier that KUAW and I have agreed upon should be used as a promo later. So we'll talk about that because it was so salient as it relates to what we are attempting to do. Now, all of that having been said, please let's hear from Louis George Walker, our founder.
Well, all right, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for listening to KUAW Radio. And you can pick up KUAW Radio live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch to hear this show and other shows that we have. You can also pick us up on the online radio box on MyTuner, on Get Me Radio. You can pick us up if you've got a smart speaker like a Google or Amazon. Just tell it to play KUAW Radio, and we will be there. So just go on your websites, search KUAW, and you'll see a lot of ways that you can get in touch with us. You can also go to www.kuaw.org to pick us up. So thank you, and now back to Carl Boyd and Wave Your Grades.
Thank you so very, very much. That's Louis George Walker, our very special guest today, Cornell Hutton, talking from an historical perspective about things that you projected, things you have seen. Cornell Hutton, we have to say, and you have already recognized this, no doubt about it, many people may see something coming, but they don't always do something about it. How is it that you initiated these things, and with whom do you work as you do what you do?
You know, Carl, and I'm sure sometimes you're the same way, but I see you have a lot of competent people and loving people around you.
Believe that, yes, sir, yes, sir. Seriously.
Man, where we were at in Kansas, it was a small town. So I wound up primarily working by myself.
Okay.
Again, it was amazing. The young lady that was just in here, we just had a nice connection. So I think I found a future camera person
There you go.
already.
Ooh, see, that is so good. That is so good.
Because I explained to her, I have a camera that's collecting a lot of dust now because I don't get out filming as much as I do. So she said, "Well, I can certainly use it sometime." So we got exchanged each other's contact numbers, and so I look forward to working with
Now,
her.
this is outstanding, and one of the things that Louis George Walker doesn't do enough, as far as I'm concerned, especially on this particular program, is talk about all the things that he does and the opportunities he gives to young people. We ought to talk about that more. But even in our relationship, DeQuay Wilson and Carl Boyd are co-hosts, but DeQuay made a determination that she's going to learn how to do the board, as we call it, and use the equipment and all of that. That's one example. But Louis George Walker, if you would, please just let us know the kinds of opportunities young people are getting now to learn from what this studio is and represents.
Well, what we do is the KUAW Radio is a part of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. This is one of our projects. And with this, we have young people now that are coming in. They're doing radio shows. We have a youth broadcast group, radio broadcast club from Raytown Middle School that Mr. Tyrone Gathers brings in here on Thursday evenings, and they'll do stories once a month talking about school lunches, talking about the dress code, talking about things like that that are important to kids that are in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Also, we have people learning how to work the boards, how to set up stories. So we had people in today that were getting ready for the Smart Money Club that will be on Monday. So you can learn how to work the boards, you can learn how to edit, you can learn how to record and get voices right on the radio. And also, we have to let you know, if you have children or anybody that's involved or would like to get involved in robotics, that we do have a robotics club here at the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, and there's some young people right now upstairs learning how to fly drones. So we've got kids from 8 to 12 years old that are practicing and learning, and we hope to have them outside when the weather gets right so that they can fly their drones. So we do robots, we do drones, we take kids from 8 to 18 that can work here with us. So that's part of what the Black Family Technology Awareness Association does through our youth technology program and KUAW Radio.
Outstanding. Now, there you are. So that it becomes a real asset to have this kind of opportunity in this community for our young people. And when we contact Rise Up KC and we look at some of the filming that you have done, what will we see?
I think you'll see people in our community telling the real stories about our community. Because I film people in the streets. Anyone can go and get the big officials and people like that and ask them questions. But when you stop a person on the street corner and get their interpretations or their feelings about how things are, you get a much different perspective.
My Lord.
And I think that's what you'll really get when you watch RiseUpKC.com. You'll get people here in Kansas City really expressing, well, let me say this. It's people whose children have been killed. It's interviews from the mothers. It's heartbreaking. It's people talking about the need to put up more cameras so that violence can be seen. You know, it's amazing in so many of these other countries, almost every movement that you make is on camera some way if you're in the exterior outside. And so why we've limited ourselves so much is, I think, technology-wise, is kind of a sad situation here in the United States. But one thing the gentleman mentioned about the young kids that are upstairs doing the robotics and all the different type things like that. That's really the thing that I would encourage the young people. You know, get off the telephone or whatever the little gadgets that you're on, and really bring yourself into the new technology world as far as where the job opportunities are going to be for you. Because these are really the type things that you need to be working on, become more creative in, that will have you ready. And the other thing I will say, as far as being a military veteran, if you have an idea of what you want to be and you can't afford to go to college to do it, join the military and sign up in that profession and learn that profession in the military, and then come out and adapt it to civilian life.
Now, I am blessed to be in this particular environment at this time. And obviously, I didn't know all that you would discuss or describe for us, but I want to defer to DeQuay Wilson in case you have something for our guest today.
Well, I do have a question, but I want to go back to the May I Help You program.
Yes.
So I did do a quick glance of your website since we've been sitting here, and I don't see how one could reach out and contact if they were wanting to help. I imagine if you're trying to get started, volunteers are something that you would definitely need. If you don't have money, you need people that would volunteer their time, that would be willing to volunteer their time. So I wanted to know if you had contact information about that. But then also I think about oftentimes we look at programs that are geared toward helping kids who ask for help. What do we do about the kid who's too prideful or too shameful to ask for help? What do we do about the children who have been let down, that their trust has been broken, that they're afraid to ask for help? How do we reach those children, and how do we appeal to adults? Because in the end, it is our responsibility as responsible adults to make ourselves available. And two things that Carl has said. One goes back a long time. There's a saying that you have, no one rises to low expectations. And if adults do not carry themselves in a capacity in which we make ourselves available through action, letting our children know that they can trust us and rely on us, then how do we expect our children to then make better choices, or even to trust or feel like they can rely upon those adults that make themselves available? But first, contact information for May I Help You. How can we get involved on that?
You can contact me at chutton7 at att.net. That's chutton7 at att.net. And that's the best way to contact me.
And then thank you so much for that. And then I just want your opinion on the second piece of what I said.
Yeah. You know, what is it, closed mouth doesn't get fed, or something like that. And that's really what you're saying is, how do we reach that not so much standoffish kid, but stand back young person who really isn't willing to step up and say, I need help, or may I help you? And I think that's one of the things where we as adults, as teachers and things like that, we have to have a better depth perception and be able to focus and see, or an intuitiveness that something's not right when we see some of these people, young people. And I don't know if it'd be their head being down, the way they're dressed or whatever it is, but there's signs there of neglect, of lack of resources and things. And I think as a community, those are the things that we have to just keep asking the questions and reaching out ourselves to try to find. Because as you said, some of them are in that shell and they're just not going to come out themselves.
And many of them have great potential. Many of them could do great things
Oh,
if they
yes.
felt invested in.
Oh, I tell people all of the time, the number one draft pick for the NFL out of all of the kids, he certainly was not the best athlete, wasn't the best student, but like I said, God just blessed him. But like I said, we just, there are so many talented young people out there today listening, and I think all of us sitting in this studio are pulling for you. And I think that's what we want you to know, that there are people out here pulling for you. And if you do have problems, if there is something wrong, to go and reach out to someone because someone, man, God's on your side.
Now, chudson7 at att.net, when contacted, I may have a nephew to whom I want you to speak. What if I am a counselor at a high school and want you to address a class of young people in a more formal setting? That also is something that you do.
I guess I was very, very, very fortunate in the town where we came from. They had a "May I help you" hotline for youth.
Okay.
And basically, not a "May I help you" hotline, a homework hotline for
Okay.
youth.
Okay.
But anyway, what we would do is there was a group of people that would come into the classes once a week, and students that were behind on their homework assignments, they were assigned to these civilians or professionals, and they would help kids get their homework done. So I would say that there's a lot of things that we can do.
Yes.
And, like I said, we just need to sit down and ... what this person has expertise at, what that person has an expertise at, and we keep filling in the dots from there.
Now, where did you and I meet?
We actually met at the VFW.
So, when I look at
VFW Post 8100
in Grandview,
Grandview.
and I am a civilian, I am allowed to be a part of the VFW Auxiliary because my oldest brother, Herbert, was a Marine in Korea, 1952 to 1955. So he was engaged in a foreign war.
Yes.
Therefore, VFW allows me to be a part of VFW Auxiliary.
Yes.
But one quick question as it relates to where we met, VFW, Post 8100 Grandview. Do you find that you can engage veterans in what you are doing, most particularly those who are younger?
That's really the problem for the veterans VFW post, is the younger veterans were not able to recruit. And that's kind of a sad situation right now.
Okay.
Is most of the posts are just older veterans right now.
Yes.
And if there was some way that we could recruit the Iraqi, the Desert Storms, the young vets like that, we certainly would like you to come out, and we certainly would like to meet you, because again, we're having trouble recruiting those young men.
Thank you very much, because that's an appeal that we need to make on an ongoing basis. We are coming towards the end of the program, but I want to make sure that there is not something that we neglected that you wanted to make sure that we heard before the end of the program. And KUAW, I'll be calling upon you to call upon me in a moment. But how are we on that time? I'm asking our very special guest for his concluding remarks.
Oh, we've got plenty of time.
Okay. And again, making sure that something is not neglected.
You know, Carl, it's amazing, and you're the host. But sometimes, does anyone ever ask you the question of what do we do for our youth?
Yes, yes. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that's absolutely imperative is reaching out. There are some people who are looking for someone to appeal to them. One of the reasons I was interested in your being a guest is because you are proactive as opposed to reactive. So when someone asks me that question, it is do what you can do. It may be a very small thing, but if you can speak to a young person, if you can use language that is more inviting than it is insulting, if you know a Cornell Hutton and can say, man, here's something I would love to see you do a special on because this is important. I may not be able to do it, but I can appeal to the resources
That can.
who can. So our blessing, DeQuay Wilson and I, are blessed to have this vehicle on KUAW.org
Yes.
so that we can indeed hear from experts like yourself. And please continue to ask that of us, but more, please continue to do what you're doing because this continues to be extremely important.
Yes. Well, again, I don't think that whatever time I have left in life, I'd hope I won't become a couch potato because there are too many things that really need to be done and need to be said. And again, having the opportunity to meet this young lady today was really
That's
a very
outstanding.
inspiring situation because just to see the enthusiasm
That
that
is
she
so
had
good.
when she said, yeah, a camera.
Yes, indeed. Well, let me find out from DeQuay Wilson any other questions and or remarks as it relates to our guest.
No, sir, I don't want to take away any time from the important conversation that you guys are having.
Yes.
That
Well,
is,
I would like to ask you a question though, because
Absolutely.
when you have an opportunity, please go onto the site and listen to the song called "Penitentiary" or "Cemetery."
Oh, I plan to.
But that's really one of the things. Another thing I've had an opportunity to do since I've been here. I did a documentary for Girl, GYRL, but it was amazing the abuse that women are taking here in Kansas City and all across the nation. You know, we have a youth situation and things like that, but I don't think we really truly understand the domestic implications and things like that, and how that filters down as far as even the child is concerned and
Yes.
things. But I certainly hope you get a chance to watch and listen to some of those things.
I definitely will.
let me say this because we have a close for the program that is standard.
Yes.
Today, let me hold off on that for just a moment. It is important for me to let you know to whom you speak. DeQuay Wilson has fought a battle in behalf of those who have met with tragedy in their lives. And she is authentic, she is consistent, and one of the strongest people I have met. I always want to be careful how I broach this particular subject, but the imperative to me is, if he does not already know, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to talk at all.
Never.
I'm asking you in one sense to share, but to enlighten and just to help us to understand who you are.
Basically, I am a parent who visits their child at the cemetery. So that's to sum it up in a nutshell. I mean, I could, there's so many things I could say about my relationship with my son. I mean, but we don't have enough time left in the program
Exactly.
for that.
Exactly.
But my only child was murdered in 2010, January 2nd. The homicide remains unsolved. Through that tragedy, though, I have been tremendously blessed. So I don't want to necessarily harbor on the negative feelings associated with that, because trust me, there definitely are negative emotions, rather. So feelings, emotions, it's
Sure.
all the same. But I have been so tremendously blessed. And even before the blessings that I received post-homicide, the relationship that I had with my son, even up until the day that he died, I've been blessed. I've been blessed. So, I mean,
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
purpose of
Yes.
time, I don't know what else to say, but I've been
Yes.
blessed. I am the parent of I am a parent who visits their child at the cemetery, and I have been blessed.
Yes.
So,
And she continues to bless the rest of us. And that is so important, that in that her son introduced her to me, and
Absolutely.
you know, and I'm growing and learning every encounter that I have
Yes.
with DeQuay Wilson. So I thank you so very much for that.
I've learned in life that oftentimes we will do things and our intentions are pure. And so one thing we have to understand is how the recipient of what we have done views it. And that's why I think about the kid who is afraid to ask.
Yes.
Because who does for that kid is, I get what I get it. I
Come
get it. A
on.
closed mouth don't
Yes.
get fed. The game is to be sold, not told. But everybody can't afford the game, and some people are afraid to open their mouth. And I don't think that those people should miss out on opportunities. I think it is the responsibility of those as adults to still invest in those kids. And like you said, we need to look for signs, and it's a lot more than just holding the head down or the state of their attire and things of that nature. I mean, there's little things there's little things that we can clue in on, but those kids deserve to be helped as well. Those kids deserve to have opportunities provided to them. There are a lot of kids out here who have maybe at times did ask for help and then did not receive what they thought was helpful and have been let down, and now will not ask for help. They figure they'll do it themselves. And mind you, negative attention is better than no attention. So
Yeah.
we have to give attention, and pay
Praise
attention
God.
and still reach out and try to help those kids who will not ask for the help.
Yes.
Thank you so very, very much. And I cannot think of a better way to bring us to the conclusion of this program with a very, very profound thank you, Cornell Hutton, for being our very special guest today.
Well, Carl, I can't thank you enough for having me.
And Sister DeQuay, let me I'll just go to today's word. I have a calendar. It's called Morning Messages. And it is a message for students 366 days of the week. So that includes weekends and vacations. But I simply ask them to listen to a word for the day. So, Sister DeQuay, I'll just go to that.
Go right ahead.
To students across the USA, your Stoots for Boots message for this day, March 18th. The world looks to American armed forces whenever there are crises. American armed forces look to American students to study how to avoid future crises. March 18th. The world looks to American armed forces whenever there are crises. American armed forces look to American students to study how to avoid future crises. This is Wave Your Grades, our very special guest, Cornell Hutton, our co-host, engineer, producer, DeQuay Wilson. I am Carl Boyd, gracious God and wonderful Wanda. I'm on my way home.